Friends, fans, and fine folk, and all that jazz, come on down around the campfire for a short rest with me and these people, my friends from World Anvil. Hello, Janet and Dimitri. How you doing?
We're good. Very
We're
good.
doing
It's,
very
it's
well.
like it's like the first time we're here, right, Rob?
It is the first time. We did this first take without any
time.
problems.
We're so happy to be here.
It is good to have you guys on. It's been a while that I've had you on the list of guests that I wanted to ask, and I was like, you know what, I can finally set a time, because Greece is not an easy time period for New Zealand. New Zealand and Greece, not great time zones for each other. So we finally found a time that can work for us. And it's good to have you on. For those who don't know, this is Short Rest. I haven't done one of these streams in a while, so it's good to get back into them. This is a series that I run where I interview people. Well, I don't really like to say interview because it's not that formal. I chat with people from the community, friends of mine, colleagues, fellow creators, things like that. And we just hang out and chat for a bit around the campfire, as it were. So that brings me to my first thing that I like to do for short rests. Because I call this series Short Rest, we need to set up the short rest. What are we in the middle of? Are we on a mission? Are we like, why do we need a short rest? Are we in a castle? Are we underground? Are we in the Underdark? Are we in a volcano? Is it an underwater campaign?
If we're playing the campaign we're currently on with Janet and I'm GMing, they are in the middle of the Stolen Lands. They are in minus 16 degrees. It's snowing. They just, after 4 days of traveling around, we just found a tent because we were freezing our asses the last days, and now we're trying to warm up.
That sounds good. That's perfect for me as well, because I've just like half an hour ago finished one of my home games, because I'm crazy and did a stream game this morning, and then a home game in the afternoon, and then a stream in the evening, because this is my life. But I just finished a home game where they are also stranded in the snowy wilderness. They are up in the mountain ranges, and they've just escaped from some orc horde. And they were like, run away, and they ran off. And I was like, do you remember when I said that this is the middle of winter and you're in the mountains? And they're like, oh god, we're going to start making con saves, aren't we? So yeah, that's what they're doing, freezing at the moment. So we'll say that we're in a similar situation. We are in the middle of a snowy tundra kind of mission. We've found a cave and we're trying to warm up for the next 2 hours. Have we got a fire going for this short rest then?
For sure.
For sure, we've got a fire going. What are we eating and drinking?
I think we're eating elk. Sounds
nice.
Properly appropriate for them, like that.
Yeah, we've gone hunting, got ourselves an elk. And Janet, what are we?
Janet found it. It just dinosaured its way down to the elk, and now we have elk.
I just launched myself at the elk with my teeth. Like, I didn't want to wait to cook it. I was just like.
And they're like, is she a druid? What is she? And like, nah, she's not wild shaping. It's just her. Just how she is.
It's Janet. Yeah. Just Janet.
It's just Janet, exactly. It's in your species.
It's fine.
And we're just drinking melted snow because our water canteens have run out.
At least it's fresh.
Well, yeah, at least it's fresh. Yeah, hopefully it's not yellow.
I was going to say, remember yellow snow.
So we've set up our short rest and we're having a sit down. We're eating some elk and drinking some snow. And I like to start with the question with names. Usually, I like to start with the name. So where does World Anvil come from? Where did that come about?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
Actually, the name of World Anvil.
Yeah, where did the name World Anvil come from? Why World Anvil?
We batted a bunch of stuff around.
Do you remember any of the alternates?
It's not such a massive, historic moment of kind of like that, but when we started building the software, we knew it's going to be Worldbuilding software. Mm-hmm. So we knew that World or something should be part of it. Mm-hmm. And then we created, I remember, John, we created a big A3 piece of paper that we started writing names on. And then the first thing we need to check was, does this URL still already exist?
Yeah.
Does any other business have the same name? So actually we started removing things. And we ended up actually with a lot of things with Forge related, Anvil related.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we sort of gravitated towards that, yeah.
And
then actually we did World Anvil, and you kind of liked it a lot, and we just stuck with it, kind of.
Anvil of Worlds, a thing you build Anvil. Your world on. Yeah. Okay, that kind of works.
This is the horseshoe anvil, and that is the whatever anvil, and this is the world anvil, where you put your worlds together. Yeah, it makes sense. I like it. Do you remember any of the alternates? One of the contenders, the runner-up? What it could have been in an alternate universe?
World Forge was one of them for sure.
World Forge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, World Foundry goes on as well, which is very funny because right now in the last 5 years after we started, there are so many foundries and forges and like, all of them. We're like, okay, Kevin, they took the rest then.
yeah, they looked at somebody was just you were you got your list of names done and you looked down, you were like World Anvil, and as soon as you locked it in, you just threw the paper out the window and then the camera follows it and it goes it flies off and slaps against somebody's face in the wind and they're like, what? This is I'll go with Foundry and I'll go with I
was about to say Andrew all the way down to the US Midwest, like Foundry.
It's like the isn't there a scene in Polar Express where it follows a ticket and it goes into and a bird picks it up and puts it in a nest and then it rolls in snow and then eventually it ends up back on the train. Yeah, it's like that. It can go a long way in those cinematics. Well, that's pretty cool. So World Anvil, you've had no issues with it since then? You've not ever come across anybody else who's also got it in like some deep niche that you hadn't thought to look at?
So that's funny. It's a funny story.
There is a publication in Italy that they went with the World Foundry publication. And we messaged them when we first saw them and said, guys, this might be an issue. I said, nah, it's going to be fine. Of course, 3 years in the future, a Kickstarter because the Kickstarter, it's no longer fine. They have problems because when they're looking for them, they're looking for founding us, and most of the times that's the case, actually. So, yeah, it's a bit complicated situation, but generally speaking, they're good guys.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that makes me really grateful that I just went with my name, because like yes there's some downsides to that, because like obviously the anonymity of using your own name for your own personal accounts and stuff isn't an option anymore, but Robert Hartley, GM. I'm a games master. I'm Robert Hartley, so it's not a lot. I don't need to worry about it too much. All I need to worry about is like other Robert Hartleys in the world that happen to get into Dungeons and Dragons and then realize, oh, he's there.
I had that as a writer. So when I first started writing, I write novels and stories, and I also write games. That's part of my job. And when I first started writing, there was another Janet Forbes who was a pastor in America, and apparently she had a fairly good online presence, because when you search Janet Forbes, that's who came up. And I was like, oh, I can't use my name to publish then, because nobody's going to find me. They're all going to find this lady. And again, a couple of years on, I started realizing, actually, Janet Forbes is now me on Google. So now I can use my own name.
Well, the funny thing was, like when I was starting out, my first career choice from like a young kid till my mid-20s was I was going to be an actor. And there was another actor called Robert Hartley, but he was born in like 1902 or something, and he died when I was like 10. But he was an actor, and he was in like Z-Cars and some old TV shows. And so when I started as an actor, IMDb just stuck us together. And apparently this 106-year-old guy who'd been dead for 5 years. this 106-year-old who'd been dead for 5 years.
Guys, you heard it here first. Rob is a lich. He was in Z-Cars, and now he's here on Twitch.
Well, it even rhymes with lich for the modern times, because no lich should actually take the same occupation at the same, at least not in a consecutive lifetime.
They're like, I've done a lifetime as an actor, and then gone, I want to just go again. Nobody will notice. Yeah, that's
that agrees with me.
You usually get the stories of people who are immortal and having to hide in public. They have to change their location. They move around a bit. They change up their jobs. They don't straight up take a public-facing job that like relies on people knowing who they are.
You're the worst lich.
I'm the worst, and I keep using my same name. just
exactly.
keep using
You're just doing it wrong. You're liching all wrong.
Yeah.
There are so many articles about actors specifically who look like people and actors from the past.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's uncanny. You see, like, oh my god, the people are actually lich.
They're actually time travelers. Yeah, well, I mean...
I'm sorry, Rob, you're not a lich. I'll behave myself.
Maybe I'm the best lich, though. Maybe. Because liches often need followers, right? They need people around that are willing sacrifices for their phylacteries and whatever.
Are you sucking all the souls of chat? 60 people in chat.
I refuse to acknowledge that as a question. I refuse to talk about what I'm sucking on stream. Moving
a wise policy in general.
Swiftly on. What are your? You mentioned that you write games and things. What were your backgrounds before you started World Anvil? How did you come about it as an idea?
That's very
Okay,
funny.
so that's two questions. It's a big old long story. Let's talk about who we were, and let's talk about World Anvil.
Let's start with the beginning.
What
did you have a good
did.
relationship with your parents? Let's start at the very beginning.
I did.
Turn this into a therapy session.
Oh God. Therapy with Robert Hartley, GM, Lich.
So to take it from the start, I studied computer engineering, and then I went into design, and then general psychology, which landed me very well in London, starting as a developer and designer for some design studios. And soon enough, I became actually the head of development for one of the biggest studios in London, graphic design studios.
Wow.
In fact, on top of that, actually, I was also a photographer. I used to work for Suicide Girls, the website, for quite some time in France. And then I was working actually as CTO in London for a very long time until I met Janet. And then things changed a bit. I'll tell you what happened afterwards, but Janet.
I didn't break Dimitris, okay? Just to be clear.
What kind of engineering was it? Sorry, I think I missed it at the beginning.
Computer engineering.
Computer engineering. I see. Stands you in very good stead for making a website later. And Janet,
Dimit's been coding since he was like 8 or something. Dimit's always been into computers.
Super respect that, because it's one of those things that I've done enough. Because there are certain things that you've done, you know so little about. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect, and you know so little about it that you think I could probably do that, or like I would know how to do that. And then there are things that you start to learn something about, and you learn just enough to be like, I would never be able to do this. That's where I'm at with coding. I've done enough coding to be like, I am never going to understand this. I'm never going to be able to do this.
Very lucky. I was very lucky because my dad, at age 5, in 1987 now that I'm talking about, recognized that computer...
This is when Dimmy was age 5, not Dimmy's dad was age 5.
No. When I was age 5...
Dimmy's dad was age 5 in 1987. I'd be like, okay, now who's the time traveler?
Yeah. He realized that computers would be a very big thing. So he decided to get me to a school for computing. Everybody around me in that school was actually 13, 14, 15, or 18 years old, and I was 5. So I started super early. And by the age of 18, when I finished the computing school, actually, I knew more than I would ever learn in university. That's why I finished university actually in 3 years, not 5, kind of thing. Because, for me, it was like, I'm doing that for breakfast. Like, that's not a problem for me, kind of thing. So, yeah, it was, that was actually my father. Like, my father was a very big reason for me being in computing, because he was very smart to see that, that's going to be a big thing soon. And imagine what?
Yeah.
It became a very, very big thing soon.
Yeah, that's very lucky when somebody can recognize that and go, let's give them an advantage here. Like those parents who go, let's make sure that they're raised bilingual, because the soft, spongy brain can absorb it and it'll make it super easy when they're,
Also a very good
idea. But I think, especially for Dimmy, because he has one eye, it was something that he could just do. It was fine. It wasn't like you couldn't play football because you'd fall over. But you could code like a friggin' genius, because you are a friggin' genius. So it was a real I can moment.
Yeah,
I think,
that's fair as well. Was it, if you don't mind my asking, have you always had one eye, or were you born with one eye?
Yes, I was born with one eye, actually, because of something really odd and rare called toxoplasmosis, which is a microbe that cats only give out once in their lifetime if they happen to be pregnant and they got it at the same time. Then if you actually be very close to them, then you might get it. And my father got it. He gave it to my mother, and because of that, actually, I could have been completely blind, or from what could have happened, losing one eye.
Best case scenario.
It is like the best case scenario. So I was very lucky in the unluckiness kind of thing. So yeah.
And also, being born with it means you've never known any different. So it's not like it's been a disadvantage for the period of getting used to it after it happened.
Honestly, I see now in my old days, I see actually this as a very big advantage. Because first of all, in many ways, I have managed to learn about the world very differently than most other people around me. Because for me, 3-dimensional vision is not something that comes automatically like for people with 2 eyes. For me, 3-dimensional vision is actually an array of continuous calculations based on the lights, the shadows, the colors, the changes, the movement. All of that is how I can actually understand the 3-dimensionality of face kind of thing. So it gave me a big advantage because I can see things that people cannot, and I can understand the world that people cannot. Also, I'm a really good marksman. So yeah, so be careful. Just say.
I'm just now realizing that like you could call me a lich because that's one of those things where it's like if I put everything on somebody else, then they won't look at me for the same thing. And isn't there a lot of stories about liches like removing eyes and things? So is that what you're actually telling me? You've got all of these extra powers that you've gotten from this lich ability. No comment. Because you left out a big part of your backstory. I'm sure you're just like, and then I'll skip over that bit when I met Janet, because we all know Janet's capable of granting people lich powers. She's got all sorts of powers going on for her.
Yeah. Power roll.
Janet, so we got Dimitris' story up to meeting you. The camera now zooms back to your story leading up to that moment. So because we're going to get that sort of meet cute of you bumping in the street or wherever you bumped into each other. So what happened up to that point?
Yeah. So I actually was a musician for a really long time. And I started out. I shit you not. I started out as a professional recorder player. That was my job. I have 2 degrees in recorder from and historically informed performance, which is basically where you look at music from the past and then you figure out why it's meaningful and why it's written in the way and how to present it in a way that is still meaningful today. So it's a kind of like looking at the past, but also it's a creative role because, you know, at the end of the day, you're putting on music, you're making noise, it's nice. And because the recorder was a really big deal in the 12th through 18th centuries, there's a ton of music for it, and a lot of it is really, really beautiful. Samuel Pepys writes about the fact that he went to theatre and these angels appeared, and as they appeared, there was the sound of recorder, and it was so beautiful that he went and got his wife to learn how to play the recorder, and then in a later entry, the recorder master is dismissed because he and his wife were learning other things as well.
Why is she not improving? She's still not past 3 blind mice. She's been 7 years.
Oh man. Yeah, anyway, so that was my job for a whole bunch of time. I still have some recordings somewhere.
It's amazing how culture can shift. So like cultural expectations about things like instruments can shift so much that it would have been through the 12th to 18th centuries, you say? Was like it was such a beautiful thing that it was like associated with angels, and now it's associated with terrible children's performances at school, and that's it. And people think of it as the introductory instrument to then getting into good instruments, and how that culture.
Well, they don't even sound the same anymore.
No,
like if you hear Janet playing recorder, like even the instruments themselves have a completely different sound than they used to be. I mean, for the children recorder, don't mean modern professional recorders, but yeah,
and they're made differently as well in different eras, which means they all have different characters, like sound characteristics. Anyway, it's a whole thing. That was my job. At a certain point, I segued into being an opera singer because I had a voice. I'd always sung, and then voices developed later. So all of a sudden, I was being paid to sing the Queen of the Night, which is pretty cool. So I was like rocking around being an opera singer, and that was really, really nice.
An incredible singer you are too. I've heard it a couple of times when the microphone gate doesn't cut it out.
Doesn't flop. Yeah, voice is a really hard thing to capture well on mic, and these kinds of mics do not do it justice. So yeah, that was me. Historical music, my bag, and my parents are both archaeologists, so I've got a healthy dose of archaeology in my background as well. Which has been amazing for the world building, but we'll talk about that later. And so I was just like, rocking out in my conservatoire in Holland, which is where I would study, with my friends, when I went to a party of my friend, who's also my ex, and she had been on a video call with you, Dimmy, right?
Who was also my ex.
Who's also because we have an ex in common.
Mutual ex, perfect.
Because
mutual ex.
It was her birthday, essentially. So I was calling from London to tell her happy birthday. Janet was coming into the party with her current boyfriend, through the door to have the party part kind of thing of the party kind of thing.
Definitely not through the window.
No, definitely not the window.
On the wall.
And then I saw it and I was like, wow, who is this amazing? She was blonde back then, by the way. Who is this amazing blonde princess? And my ex and good friend told me very clearly, and I remember it to this day, she is way out of your league. You won't even have a chance. And that was it. For a year, like a whole year passed, nothing happened. And then a year comes in, and I broke up with. Actually, no, I was already broken up with my girlfriend that year. It was a year actually that I was single. The only year in my life I was single ever. That's a different conversation. And then Janet got single, and I decided to message her. And because my friends wanted me so much to find a girlfriend, a good friend of mine who is also a photographer got me out in London and decided to like dress me up and things like that, and took photos of me in a jazz bar. And in the jazz bar, I was wearing a fedora and like weird purple t-shirt kind of thing because I did not dress myself that day. And they took a photo of me.
It was really dark. Yeah.
It was very dark. So when Janet saw the photo of me, because I messaged her to say, hi, how are you doing? Literally hitting on her. She was like, who's that weirdo? Like that old man weirdo. And it took about like 5 or 6 hours of discussion and she was, oh, it's him, the weirdo after all. Kind of thing.
Oh, he's not an old man weirdo. He's the other weirdo that I already knew.
He's the other kind of weirdo. Exactly. But she didn't know that then.
Persistence for the win.
Yes, man. So, we met, we started dating. I was also low-key doing some writing at the time, just in a kind of like amateur way.
What kind of writing talking?
Also, poetry, short stories, novels, that kind of thing, but not anything very serious.
Yeah.
And then, after my master's degree finished, we'd been dating 2 years. I moved back to the UK, where Dimmy was. And then we lived together, and then we got married, and it was so nice, and all this stuff was happening, and I went off and had my career in opera, which was really fun, and Dimmy went off and had his career in being a CTO, which was also really fun, and everything was going great. And I kept writing. And, oh yeah, I should also mention at this point that I had played Dungeons & Dragons when I was 10, at a school club, and then I didn't play until I re-met Dimitris.
Oh, right.
And sorry, until I met Dimitris. So I had like a 17-year gap. No, like a 10-year gap. I know how to count. Something gap in my
we'll
in my
in
playing.
Just give us a take where you just say all of the numbers. Just like
all of the numbers.
And I'll just
numbers.
And I'll just take the. We'll work it out afterwards. We'll do the maths off screen.
The magic of cinema. It's because you're a lich, right? You can just do these things. Yeah. So yeah, I had met Dimmy, and Dimmy had been like, "Oh yes, by the way, I also play Dungeons and Dragons." In this kind of low key, I know you're going to think it's really nerdy, but I feel like I should tell you this because my house is full of D&D books and Pathfinder. Actually,
you got to go full disclosure at the beginning, so you don't waste your time.
Yeah, you got to get people ready. I was like, I like cats, and Dimmy was like, I like Pathfinder. D&D. I think he expected me to be like, oh my god, that's so nerdy, you'll have to do that in the basement, away from the real people. And I was like, that is the coolest thing! I played before, it was amazing, we have to play. So, we both got really into D&D, and we started playing together. We play, I mean, not just D&D, Alternity, and Pathfinder, and lots of different systems. This is where World Anvil came from, is that Dimmy and I were both playing a ton, I was writing, and I'd got to the point where I had written part of a epic fantasy novel. So lots of world building. And I had this Google document that was 101 pages long. And I remember that very specifically because the damn thing crashed every time I tried to load it. And that was just the world building. It wasn't the novel, that wasn't the prose, it was just the world building. And of course, because world building is not linear, and a Google document is linear, I had the issue where, like, the stuff, it was impossible to connect everything together. And and then I would have there was a bit of religion up here, and there was a bit down here about politics. But of course, politics and religion were interconnected in my world. Super, super important for the setting. And then I would write different things about religion down here than I would have up here, and then the whole thing would stop actually making sense, and then it wasn't connected to. And it was just this absolute nightmare. Apart from the fact that the Google document just
kept crashing as well.
Just did not load. The structure of it was just a nightmare, and I went to Dimitris and I was like, "Help me! I always thought I was a good world builder, but apparently I can't world build." And Dimitris looked at this thing and he was like, "This is travesty. This is a technological travesty. I will make you a thing." And that's where World Anvil comes from. World Anvil is a thing.
A thing that was conceived.
Yeah. It was a thing that was conceived on May 2017 and was completed in the main core of it was completed over 2 months during summer holidays while we were in summer camping, essentially sitting there the days. And then at the end of this holiday, while I was actually ready to show it to Janet and I was showing it off, I had a good friend of mine and actually my good friend Nondas, which currently is a developer for Worldbuilding, interesting enough how things have turned, come to me and say, "Look, this looks really cool. You should probably put it live so other people can see it as well, just in case they like it." And you know what? We said, "No, the hell not. I mean, there's not a problem. I did a good job. Janet had an okay job. We could actually put a website live without being worried, essentially, that will break the bank kind of thing." So we said, "Well, okay, we're going to put it live." So in September 2017, we put it live.
You did miss a very important thing. Dimitris coded most of the core of World Anvil pretty much naked.
Well,
just in swimming trunks.
That is an important fact that needs to be known.
I thought so. I thought everybody needs to know that.
I mean, to be fair, your creative baby was conceived with one of you naked. It's usually the case that babies are conceived with at least one of them naked.
At least 50% of the party should be rather naked.
This is Dimitris' home DM rules. That is not true, by the way.
Oh dear. So yeah,
I was joking with somebody the other day about how in my games, all my D&D games, any sort of sexual scene is like fade to black. You can have your romance and you go off to the bedroom and fade to black and you go to the next day. There's no rolling and stuff. And then we were joking about how if there's probably a DM out there that's like the antithesis of me, and like only the sex scenes are shown, and like everything else is fade to black.
That is called a porn movie.
Yeah, D&D as a porn.
Roll for prestidigitation.
Yeah, roll for constitution checks and all sorts of stuff. Anyway, you were saying.
So yeah, we put it live with just the screen. I was saying, you know what? If you're interested, just put your name here in email, and we'll send you an email with an invitation when it's open. And we decided to open it up in October 2017. By the time I checked on that morning, essentially, how many people have subscribed to see, does it even worth that? We just put it down kind of thing. There were actually 10,000 people waiting. I was like, okay,
holy shit,
that's interesting.
Cool. So how did these people hear about it? Where did you put it? Sorry.
Not anywhere. Honestly, I put it, I think, on my Facebook, and maybe, I have put it, I think, once in Reddit, in our Worldbuilding.
Holy shit.
As an idea, because, we put it in our Worldbuilding because before this happened, during 2016, 15, 16, 17, myself and Janet were working on a website called Lost Kingdom. Lost Kingdom was actually just us nerding around about medieval times and archaeology, but in combination with RPGs. Like, how can you take essentially medieval history and archaeology and use it in your things? Like, for example, I was running a project called the Medieval Village, where I was explaining how the medieval village used to work and how economics in medieval times used to work and how nobility used to work and things like that. And so we're having fun, pretty much. We had a good audience there, so we put it live there as well, make an announcement, and we just left it. So in October 26th, I think, because it was my name day, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I essentially said, you know what, I want to sit through the list. And I was like, 10,000 people waiting. I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of people. I have not created actually a way for them to be invited. So I just literally just copy and paste emails and sending emails personal. Like literally every single person, I think about 1,500 people I managed to do over the next 30 days. I messaged them personally, not copy pasting, like, hey, your name kind of thing. this is your invitation, this is your code, go in, actually register, kind of thing. So I got to know a lot of people. A lot of these people actually are still in the community right now, because we opened up the website in that day, and for quite a long time, until November actually, it was on invitation only. So whoever was coming to the website meant that they were invited by me personally, and they were coming to my Discord server, which was also tiny back then. Like we knew everyone. In fact, with many of those people, we went and we met them, and we had like beers in Paris and Berlin and whatever, this kind of thing. So for the first month, it was like that, very chill, very easy, and I was not able to invite everybody. I was inviting slowly. Until at some point in November, Janet had the idea of like, you know what, we should make something to engage them and have fun. And we created actually our first challenge. Oh yeah, we were on Patreon back then. So essentially we were just like having people supporting us on Patreon, because that was essentially the way that we were thinking of. And we said, you know what, if it manages to make its money, because with 1,500 people actually it was costing us some money at this point, we'll keep it. We'll see what happens. So in November, we decided to open it up because Janet and I had the idea of creating a challenge over November called Worldbuilding. And Worldbuilding was actually a simple challenge of putting people back then, not 10,000, but to write 12,000 words in a month. That was the idea. Let's write 12,000 words in a month of your world building, essentially, because we thought it would be a good idea for them to write on their walls and get to know the system, kind of thing. So your code, great. And we decided to open the website. We said, you know what, we're going to open it just for November. We invited all of the rest of the list by email, and everybody else who came. By January 2015, Worldbuilding had 50,000 users. That was 5 times the people who were supposed to be there. We had no idea how this happened. February, March, we got a massive call out in Reddit randomly, in my birthday, in fact, because we were out with our friend's birthday, and suddenly somebody posted something on Reddit, and the website was on fire.
No, that wasn't Reddit. That was the Tumblr spike. That
was the Tumblr spike. Sorry, yeah. So the website started to get actually thousands of people in. I was like, what the F was going on? Because the servers were tiny. It was not supposed to be a project that will actually get so many thousands of users. It was supposed to be like 50, 100 users maybe every day, kind of thing. So we rushed from very North London to all the way down to South London, crazy, because the website already fell once, to upgrade the servers, because for the first time I decided, funny enough, that was such a hilarious thing, I decided for the first time not to get my laptop together with me, because we wanted to go out with our friends and not just enjoy it, and that's where it happened.
Typical.
Yeah, fun like kind of thing. So yeah.
We got so many notifications that my phone blew up. It just turned off. It just gave up.
Phone's like,
so
I'm not used to this. I can't do this.
That it just couldn't work anymore.
You've never been this popular in your life. I can't handle this.
Yeah, exactly.
Because back then, essentially, we were saying, you know what, every time that somebody registered, we would like to know about it, right? So the website was just sending an email journal saying, you know what, a new user registered.
Yeah.
So because we wanted to welcome them personally, we did. Like for a very long time, every time that someone was coming in, we'll be sending them an email. In the beginning, manual, then almost automated, but effectively, if they replied, we replied in person, kind of thing. And we did it for a long time.
We still do that, by the way.
We still do it, like
exactly. If people reply to the welcome email, that comes to me personally, or a member of. So for the guild emails, they all come to me personally, and I try and respond to every single one personally. Even though we have 2 million users now.
I remember because I got on. I started Anvil before I was doing this as a professional job, so it wasn't like a networking thing for me. It was just a genuine tool that seemed really useful, and I went on there, and I remember getting a message from you and being like, "Oh, that's the lady from the videos. She's responding directly."
Yes, I write to everybody. I think it's really important.
It is important. I have a similar thing with me. Like anybody who joins my Patreon and supports me on Patreon, that's them saying, "Here's some money for." No reason, just other than I like your work, and so I make a point of like everybody gets a welcome message on Patreon that I write out specifically anew every time. I don't copy paste it or anything. I'm just like, hey, thank you very much.
And I think it is important. That's very important because let's not forget we're creators, right? I mean, we should treat people with respect and actually thank them for the fact that they're there and support kind of thing. And we still see it like that with Janet. Like things changed a lot, but I think for myself and Janet, it is still the same thing. Like people say, you are a business. You know how, okay, we'll talk about it later, but you know how different it is when people think you are a business. I was like, what do you mean a business? I'm Dimitris and I'm Janet, and she's Janet. Like, we're not a business, we're not a building, we're just two people.
Businesses don't exist. Businesses are like imaginary
ethereal
entities.
Yeah.
Like we're people, and now we're slightly more people, but you know, we're people.
So that brings us to April 2018, and that's actually pretty much the end of the story of Worldbuilding in its beginning, where we went to an accountant. What's that? Yeah, it was a mini Anvil. Went to an accountant and told them,
the baby Anvil.
Guys, you cannot do this anymore, like, because we're not even registered. Back then, we didn't, like, the amount of money we were making were so low that we'd actually say, you know what, it was a supplemental income in our tax record. And so I say, like, guys, you cannot continue like that, because by the end of the year, you will have to pay an enormous amount of taxes if you continue doing it as private people. And then in April 2018, Worldbuilding actually became business because we had to. And the next decision was, I'm leaving my job because there is no way I can actually any longer do both of them.
Full-time job and this, yeah.
I was pulling crazy hours. Like, since October, I was working an 8-hour job and then another 10 hours job for Anvil, and I'm not even kidding. Like, it was crazy. We almost lost our relationship with Janet. Actually, that's how intense it was. Janet was actually working on the tube, going to work and back from the tube at 12 o'clock in the evening after returning from her show, kind of thing, just to be able to hold on. To keep up.
I would be like, I was doing this really cool program about the music of Jane Austen at that point, which I won't bore you with. But anyway, I would be like on the train answering emails, and then I'd get to the station and I'd be like, oh, I've got 20 minutes before the person comes to pick me up for the concert. I'll just crack out some more emails. And then I get on the train to come home or whatever, and I'd be like, oh no, I still have to write that blog post, or I still have to do the judging for that challenge we ran, or something like this. And again, like, I was trying to do the career of a traveling musician, and I had all of this music work, and then I also had all of this World Anvil work, and so for Dimmy it was an easier choice, but for me it was really hard, because I had to decide to give up music, which is what I did in the end. But yeah, like, World Anvil has definitely got its pros, don't get me wrong, but like, it was a really big decision for me, but there was no other way. Like, there wasn't a way that we could have hired somebody back then, simply because we were not established enough. It was really, really tough, actually.
Yeah, because just to clarify, technically, us working for World Anvil was actually a very big thing, because we took, like, at least I took, a massive pay cut, and we were living in London. Like, London, no joke, it's one of the most expensive cities to live in, and this is actually the reason we don't live in London anymore, because it was crazy.
It is insane how expensive it is to live in big cities, especially London, I imagine.
London, Paris, New York, apparently we found out lately, because we went last year to New York to meet some of the guys from the community, and I was shocked. Like, London's expensive. London is expensive, and the same sandwich that in London goes for £3.50 went for $10 in New York, and I was like, how? How do you do this, New Yorkers? Like, this is 3 times more expensive than the most expensive city in Europe. Like, WTF, literally.
It's obscene, and people are like, well, you got to do that. You got to live there for the work because the work's there or whatever. And it's a vicious circle. Vicious circle of situations. So you started out just the two of you. Where are we at now? Fast forward to present day. What size is World Anvil? How many people are involved?
The year of 2022 for us was the year of Avengers Assemble. It was the year that we were like, we cannot do this. Like, we did an international move whilst keeping World Anvil up. We have gone through so much whilst keeping World Anvil up with this tiny skeleton team and all of us doing everything. It's funny that you say, the lady from the videos, because those videos, I scripted them, I recorded them, I learned to freaking video edit, I learned to use Adobe After Effects to do animation for World Anvil. Like, the learning curve was extreme because it was me and Dimmy, and that's who we had. And when somebody said, I need a trailer for World Anvil, I'd be like, well, shit, that's my day. I'll just go learn to use After Effects. So that bit, the bois that we have, the big, like, explodey trailer, I made that on my first day of using After Effects.
Did you do your logo as well down below me and of that
Dimmy
side?
did the logo.
You did the logo.
Dimmy did the logo.
Nice.
Dimmy, as well as being
Oh, you said you were a graphic
as well as
designer.
being an IT person, he's
That's
also
right.
a graphic designer.
Yeah.
So all the original design for World Anvil came from Dimitris.
Nice.
So we could do this 2-man team for a while, and I was like, I do all the comms and the front end and all the writing and all of the video stuff and all the audio stuff. I do that, and then Dimmy does all the technical stuff and the design stuff.
Smart.
And the business.
And man,
So,
it was just
and that was
too much.
until
Well, we share the
actually-
business stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually the case until 2021. Like until the end of 2021, we were just literally myself and Janet. In 2021, we decided to actually get three more people to work for us. We already to give actually due where it's supposed to be. We have a fucking amazing community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We have the support of our moderators in Discord and an incredible team of about 5 people through the 2017-2021, which were called enchanters, which were helping us with doing community management. These people absolutely rock and they'll forever be in our heart.
100%.
Exactly.
100%.
In 2021, although the enchanters were dissolved essentially as an organization, more or less, not completely, but essentially they stopped actually have so much prominence, we decided to take 2 of them to become actually side helpers in Worldbuilding, but paid at that point kind of thing.
Yeah, part-time
And-
staff essentially
Right,
became.
yeah.
And we also got another 2 people, one of them who became somebody who took a side project, Steven that is, to work on a side project to help me out, and Manu, who also, I'll talk about both of them later on, who decided to help me out with server stuff, because you know what, I'm a programmer, but I was not a server admin, so I needed somebody to help me out as the server was growing.
Yeah.
In 2022, we decided to expand all the teams at once.
Yeah.
It was November 2021 was probably the month that we both hated more than anything else ever. We've been working more than normal, and the normal was already 10 hours.
Yeah.
And we're doing interviews continuously. We hired in January 2022, February 2022, from 4 people essentially in semi, we became 14.
14.
14.
That's.
And now that is how many we are.
You're now
We're
14.
a team of 14 incredible people.
Yeah.
And
It was an absolute task. Like when I say Avengers Assemble, I mean it literally took 2 movies worth to get our team together and get everyone up to speed and knowing what they need to know.
Yeah.
And it was also because it was basically me and Dimmy had done everything for so long. There was nothing written down. There was no documentation.
Right,
All of the handover had to come from. Oh, Matt, it was so much.
Yeah.
It was, and we're so lucky that we found such amazing people. Like
and the
our
community
team.
as well. We're so lucky to have also the community. Like people like, in fact, Tillers, who is I think he's in the chat right now, right?
Yes, Tillers, our Duck Lord.
Tillers, okay, I will shout
sheep.
out right now. I will shout out because it actually definitely worth it. We were discussing about it yesterday evening as well with Janet. Tillers, the guy in the chat, made it possible for Worldbuilding not to have to support 1, not 2, but about 30 to 40 RPG systems. He is a stat block creating machine who has never asked for something. In fact, Tillers sends us a calendar full of chocolate every year during Christmas, and on top of that, made certain that Worldbuilding would be playable by so many people around the world about so many games around the world, and he still does it. So, you know what? Yes, we have been alone in many things, but without the support of people like Tillers, it wouldn't have been possible.
Good on you, Tillers. You just can't do it without the community. I've been doing this 3 years or so, and I mean, like quite literally, I wouldn't be able to do it because most of my income comes as direct donations and things. But more metaphorically, I also just wouldn't be able to do it without the support of the community, the moderators, the people who just like going above and beyond. My moderators, they're all working for free, but they're like doing things that I'm like, I really wish I could be earning enough to pay you guys for this work you're doing because it's way more than you should be doing as a moderator. And they're just like,
Absolutely.
no, we just like helping you and blah blah blah. It's super kind of them. You just can't start small businesses like this without people who are willing to help out in that way and go way above and beyond what's expected of them.
Absolutely.
What's a day in the life look like for you guys now that you've got 12 other people that are doing their things? What sort of
So
jobs?
Jimmy
Start
wakes
with.
up at 4 a.m.
I have a meeting at about 5 o'clock every Tuesday in the morning. But generally speaking, at 4 a.m. I wake up and I have work until 7 o'clock, where I wake up Janet. Then we go for a walk and we have breakfast. And then we start our day from 9 o'clock. I mean, they continue my day. Janet starts her day from 9 o'clock until 6:30 to 7 or 8, depending on the day.
Or
And
9,
then
or sometimes
10,
10.
11.
sometimes we have a stream, yes. Friday, Saturday, go to the work. And then we potato until the next day.
When we
And
do
we
it
all-
all over again.
But what sort of day-to-day work are you doing in that time? Because you've got that rest of the team now that are doing some jobs. Which sort of things did you hire for, like coders and promoters, marketers, social media people? What sort of people did you get?
We hired an incredible team of coders, and we had a team of community management and customer service and marketing. So we have people all over. But you know what, Robert? One thing I realized is actually having a team does not mean doing less. It just means doing different.
Doing different.
And
Now you're managing a team.
So, yeah, I'm not coding anymore as much, and I miss it so much that essentially I have to go back sometimes and say, you know what, today I'll dedicate a day coding, so I don't forget how coding looks like. But the truth of the matter is that having a team like that means, talking to them and giving them information and supporting them and making sure they have everything they need to be able to do their job and also to be happy, because you kind of, at least I believe that when you get a team, you are becoming responsible for these people. I'm thinking about the fact you're responsible about the fact that they're going to be able to eat next month. That's the least of the thing. You're becoming responsible into having for them to have a good time while they're working, and also for us, for Janet and I, because it's important for us, a good life balance, work balance. Like, we kind of have to push our team not to overwork sometimes and to take the time off or to get rest if they're sick, kind of thing. Like, you become kind of like a dad where you don't realize you're supposed to be one, kind of thing. And it's a very odd feeling, but honestly, for me, it is quite fulfilling, because from all the things that we're doing, I think taking care of our team is one of the things that we both really care about a lot.
Yeah.
You can tell.
I spend a lot of time. Sorry, go ahead.
I said you can tell. It shines through.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time being like, so we have this job that needs doing. Who wants to take this on? And my team is amazing. So recently we have just kicked off with our podcast again. And there's somebody on my team who is an absolute friggin' legend. And they also have a background in music. And I was like, I used to edit this myself, but now I do not have time. Are you interested in learning podcast editing? And they were like, yes, this sounds fascinating. So there's a lot of that kind of thing where, there are jobs that I used to do that now I am aware that I do not have the time for, and they need delegating. So it's a lot of it is about finding the right fit for that person, finding the right fit for the job. So whereas in the past I would create the content from start to finish, now I have a content coordinator who comes to me and says, we need these pieces of content. And I go, that's awesome. I'm really excited about these topics. And I'll go away and I'll find guests and we'll do live streams, or I'll, write the content or whatever it is. And then I hand it back over to the team, and then they do the other side. So while a lot of the stuff is still coming from me in the center, I have somebody on one side and somebody on the other side taking up all the other bits. So it's a bit like pickup football, essentially. Like everybody's sort of mucking in and helping out.
It's quite a learning experience to try and get used to delegating jobs, and I'm still
so hard.
Not good at. My mods are constantly yelling at me to be like, if there is something I can do, tell me what I can do. Can I do this? Can I do this? And I'm like, I don't want to burden you. I'm not. I've got what you can do. They're like, you didn't sleep at all last night, or you've not been eating enough, or you've running 3 games today. And I'm like, I'll reach out if I need help. And they're like, we can see you need help. It's not an if anymore. You need help. Let me help you. Very difficult.
It's good to know, Rob, because at least it's not just that. That's really nice to know, because I thought for a long time that we're insane, but no, it's just reality.
It's like a control thing. For me, it's more of like a creative thing. Like I feel like I need to have creative control over all the steps. So maybe it's like a control freak thing or perfectionist thing of like, I need to know it's being done right. like for the longest time now, the Fancy Unicorn, a member of my community, has been working for me as my assistant and my editor. And it took a long time for me to kind of just like hand over the reins of editing and like check the edit each time and be like, is it good? Is it good? And then it's, you know, it's finally got to the stage where I'm like, I can trust what she's doing. She's doing a great job, and now she's earned my trust of being like, you do the edits and I'll focus on this thing. So I finally started to hand over the reins of certain things, certain projects. I just recently brought on my second contractor, starting to grow the Robert Hartley business as well, and been like, hey, can you help with the podcast stuff that I'm going to be starting? And speaking of podcasts, then, since we might as well give it a shout out while we're talking about it. What's the name of your podcast, and where can people find it?
It's called the Anvil Worldbuilding Podcast. It's that simple.
Who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk you had an idea for marketing?
We have amazing guests as well. We have Tracy Hickman is on there. The Guy Sclanders, of course. We've got like New York Times best-selling authors on there talking about everything from novel writing to GMing to world building. We have archaeologists who've come on and talked to us about, you know, how the world used to work, which is really useful for world building. Again, we've had medieval food experts come on. It's a good time. I use my academic hookups for evil, and I get them all on the podcast to come and talk to us about like medieval stuff, and then we can talk about medieval fantasy stuff. That's great.
That sounds like my 40-second podcast. It'll join the queue of podcasts that I'm not listening to because I've got so many of them. You just hear about podcasts and you're like, oh, that sounds like a fun podcast, and you add it to the list and you're like, I am adding them at way faster a rate than I'm listening to them. I'm never going to catch up with any of these. Yeah.
Actually, since we're talking about podcasts and streaming, I do have something that we should talk about, because we should not forget about it. Taylor just reminded me. In the 18th and 19th of March, we're doing a completely free, just to clarify, event, which is actually the first world building con. It's going to be live on Twitch. We're going to have people like the creator of Eberron, that is Keith Baker. We're going to what?
I just said Keith Baker.
Yes, we have the
Keith
creator
Baker.
of Dragonlance. Yes, we have the creator of Dragonlance, Tracy Hickman, and we also have. Yeah, Janet, tell me, who else do we have there? But you know,
we have Tracy Hickman, New York Times best-selling author and creator of Dragonlance. Keith Baker, the creator of the award-winning Eberron. We have Gail Carriger, who is also a New York Times bestseller.
We'll get there. The words in some order.
Words in some order of thing, and creator of the Parasol Protectorate series. We have Mary Robinette Cowell, who has won both a Hugo Award and a Nebula Award, I think multiple, and is also a member of the Writing Excuses podcast with Brandon Sanderson, a writing professor, all-round kick-ass lady. I want to be her when I grow up. And if I can't be her, I want to be Amanda Hammond, who is a senior game designer over at Wizards of the Coast, and also a super badass woman. Chris Fox, who is a self-publishing guru, RPG specialist, novel writing specialist, again, all-round cool guy, and a World Anvil user, just saying. So yeah, we have Andy Law, the guy who made Maps Critical Role, Kaora, another guy who made Maps Critical Role.
He created actually the Warhammer
Fantasy. Yeah, Andy Law has done everything for everybody. He is one of the coolest people in the industry, and also one of the nicest. He's like a nice, happy Scottish teddy bear, and I just love talking to him. Amazing. I should talk about my guests that way, but they are amazing, amazing people, and I am ridiculoly excited for this.
And these people are coming together on the 18th and 19th, you say, of this month?
18th and 19th. So it's designed to be of this month, yeah. Saturday and Sunday.
It's coming up, 2 weeks.
It's most of it is going to be viewable on VOD, but not all of it. Just a heads up. Some of it we can't keep up. Because it's proprietary content, so some of it will only be viewable live.
I have that problem as well, but it's perfectly normal. Like, it happens to everyone. That you just can't keep it up sometimes.
Yeah, many of the creators actually do not want their things to be live later on, which is perfectly normal, essentially. So yeah, 18th, 19th in Worldbuilding, Twitch/TV/Worldbuilding. It will be a 5 hours Sunday, 5 hours the next day. Of content, like there will be essentially talks, there will be seminars, there will be discussions, kind of thing, all of them together, and we are topping all of that up by the end of the show with the World Building Awards ceremony, which is going to be essentially rewarding the best of our community. We have for the first time Yeah. For the first time in this year, we're also going to have actual physical awards. I'm going to send them to people.
Trophies! We got trophies! That's so cool!
That's pretty cool.
And they're so beautiful, like they're incredible. The design was just finished, and I was looking at them, and they're made of like glass and like wood and like. It's amazing. Yeah, I like it a lot. So I can't wait because I want to have one for myself. I might create one that's hidden here. It's like the creator of the Anvil Award kind of thing or something. But
how are you judging? How are you judging who gets those awards?
Okay, so oh, can I? Sorry.
Please.
I actually just dropped the link in the chat if anybody wants to see some of the coolest world building of 2022. So the way that we did it was in January, we got everybody who wanted to submit. We then sent the submissions to our special judges, who I don't think I'm allowed to reveal yet, but there's some hella names on that list. Like hella names.
Wow.
Like you would not believe me if I told you that they were voting the World Building Awards. It's insane. And they picked their top 5 for each category. And we have a series of different categories. So we have, I think, 6 article categories. And then we have a timelines category and a maps category and a chronicles category. Chronicles on World Anvil is maps, interactive maps meets interactive timelines in an amazing kind of like time and space nexus of I know when and where everything happened in my world kind of space. So we have an award for one of those. And then we have the whole world awards as well. So most innovative world, we have most beautiful world, we have a best world award as well, both a new and an ongoing world. And the top 5 from each category is now in the form that I threw in the chat. So if you want to see our judges' top 5s and maybe vote for your favorite, you can do that right now.
And you can't yet say who the celebrity judges are. But
they're not yet on the website. I don't want to gazump my team.
But if one of those celebrity judges wanted to reveal themselves, would they be able to do that?
I suppose that would be allowed.
Ah, okay.
I suppose that would be allowed, yes, if you'd like to.
I may happen to know someone who did one of these judgings, and I may happen to know how the process of judging worked, and I may happen to have set myself up for no particular reason. Centauri says, wonder who. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know anything about it. But it sounds like a very exciting time. It sounds like a very exciting time, and I'm very looking forward to seeing who wins it, because boy, were some of those things hard to make a decision on, because I opened up some of the submissions and went, you can do this in World Anvil? I was like, how has this person got? How did they do it? I was like, I want to do this. I want my articles to look like this.
Can I tell you a secret? Sometimes I look at the things that people do, and I still say, "You can do
this." Incredible. Let's change gears a bit and talk about. It's not all been easy. We've touched a little bit on it, but what are some of the biggest difficulties you've faced with making World Anvil to date?
Not throttling Dimitris. Definitely comes high on the list.
Pretty.
I love you,
tough.
Darling. I love you so much.
It can put a strain working together and living together and sleeping together. Yeah.
Oh man, absolutely.
24 hours every day working on the same stuff.
And it doesn't let up. So Demi mentioned when we talk about day in the life, we go for a walk before breakfast. That's a work walk. We go for a walk at lunch. That's also a work walk, because we do our meetings while we walk, because there are not enough hours in the day. And like to the point that there are certain zones which are designated no talk about work zones. So when I am actually physically in bed, Dimitris is not allowed to talk to me about work. And that has had to be set up, because otherwise I would wake up first thing in the morning and Dimitris would be like, so here's what happened.
I've been awake for 5 hours.
Americans were up. Yes, exactly. I've been awake for 3 hours and here's everything that's happened. And I've been like, there is no coffee in my system and I'm currently in bed. Do not make me work right now. This is unfair.
That's smart. You gotta have good communication about those things and be like, these are the strict boundaries that we
boundaries, man. Yeah.
We are doing much better than we used to do, like in general. Yeah, like, it used to be very hard. At some point, actually became really rough because life and work became so intrinsically linked. You couldn't live without working, and you have to understand that because our work is what we love. I had the problem as well because I was coming to Worldbuilding, and I still do sometimes, to write for my goal, to prepare for my campaign, and I would see something, and I would fixate. And I was like, no, that needs to be fixed. So it was Sunday. I was supposed to be working for my goal to prepare for my session. And suddenly, actually, I'm doing 5 hours of work.
Yeah.
Because, your mind cannot flip so much. We are getting better. It took us 5-6 years, but we're getting better at this. But for example, yesterday we went out for a walk in the evening. It was yesterday or the day before. And we had to say, by the time we reach the middle of the walk, which we know exactly what the middle of the walk is, no more walk. So we actually walked all the way to the middle, and then we stopped.
Yeah.
Until next morning.
I literally said to you, I don't want to talk about work, but I'm currently thinking about work, and there's some stuff I want to talk about, but also I don't want to talk about work. And that's basically our life.
Yeah.
Our life is trying not to talk about World, Anvil, and failing, because it's our life, right?
Yeah. And I think it's very important, as you've said, to have those like established things of like we can talk about it at these hours or at this place or whatever, and then we try and turn that.
That's something that we've really only managed to do well in the last year or so.
Yeah.
Like we've been trying for a long time, but only the last year or so we cracked it, I think.
But it's new with the fact we have a team now, because having a team means that things happen even when you're not there, and that changes a lot. That's actually the thing that really changed with the team. Like, if there were 2 people and something happens, it's just you. Pretty much. There's no other choice. But there are many times the last actually year that the website fell, and I did not have to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Yeah.
All my team was on it, and I trusted our team not only to be on it and fix it, but I trust my team so the community will announce it and we help people around and we let them know what's going on. It used to be that if something like that happens, myself and Janet,
I'm the only one who can fix it.
Yeah, we gotta fix the baby because the baby is broken. Exactly. And so I'd be on socials, I'd have like 8 tabs open being like, don't worry, World Anvil's coming back in a minute, and then Timmy would be furiously trying to fix whatever's gone on wrong on the back end, and then, World Anvil will be back in a minute. That's fine. But then, of course, we're like, it's 3 in the morning and we're completely wide awake.
Now we're wired, Yeah, I think it's important. I've long used this sort of analogy of like we've only got enough fuel, a fuel source, a battery, whatever it is, to light up a certain amount of bulbs. And if you need to turn up the work bulb, the relationship bulb has to dim, or the friendship bulb, or the whatever. And so and you can't leave any of them turned off for too long, or they just won't turn back on again. So you've kind of just got to realize, this bulb has been burning bright for a long time. I really need to turn that down and turn up the relationship bulb.
We did get it actually, or like even with our relationship at some point, early days when we actually were still learning, our relationship actually almost took a hit for that. It was one of the hardest times we actually had to pass by. We actually, to the point we said, we're gonna drop everything down, we're going on holidays.
Yes.
Because we needed to. And our community, do you remember that, Janet? The guys knew we were so burned out, and they voted on the feature request board for us to take holidays.
The very first feature request on our feature request board was for Janet and Dimitris to go take a holiday.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. What a community.
Yeah.
Actually, talking about community and waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I have a very interesting story to say.
So the pizza!
The pizza. So, Anvil fell down. It was 3 o'clock. People tried to message us, they couldn't. So one of the most ingenious people we had working for us and working with us decided to call a pizza place at 3 o'clock in the morning to deliver us pizza. They bought the pizza and they sent it to the place. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake up because somebody's ringing on the bell, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I'm like half naked coming out of the window at November kind of thing, freezing, going, please, like, you have pizza? I was like, what pizza? And I was going down like, sleep still kind of thing, trying to get the pizza, and I'm trying to understand what is going on, and like that I was like, you know what, let me check my computer. And then I realized Portal was down, and everybody was like up in arms, like messaging everywhere. Discord was full with messages everywhere.
That's very ingenious idea to get her. That's thinking outside the box. How are we going to get in touch? Another address. I'll send them a pizza. Better that than I'll give an anonymous tip off to the police or something. Knock them away.
that would have been very fun. Like that would
bash through their door.
The police came up my house. Yeah.
Rather pizza than
knock
police.
Knock the door and say, knock, knock, knock. World Anvil is down.
Yeah. I've got a pizza here for World Anvil is down. Is that a name?
A smart idea.
So on the topic of the relationship thing, Lizzie and I, my fiance and I, have long done a 2-2-2. We saw it about it on some forum or something, and it's every 2 weeks you have a date night together, and every 2 months you have a weekend away, like a staycation or something, and then every 2 years you have an overseas, like a week away at least, like a holiday, proper vacation sort of thing. And we've done that for a while, and it's like it's a good way to like schedule in that, because a lot of people are like, oh, but spontaneity is important, and yeah, spontaneity is important, but you also need to schedule in that you are getting that time together, and you're making sure that you're making time for each other.
It goes down to minimum viable product. Like you said, spontaneity is okay, but you have at least to do that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. You want to do that, and then also have spontaneous date nights. It's not like you can only have a date night on date nights every 2 weeks, but you got to have 2-2-2. Yeah. Fantastic. So it sounds like you've had a lot of troubles. You've overcome a lot of troubles. You're still working on some things as well, as we all are. Got constant things, constantly working. Let's talk about how you market World Anvil. How do you still put yourself out there? You said one of the people that you brought on board recently was like marketing team.
Yeah. So when we started out, obviously World Anvil was kind of growing faster than we could even keep up.
Yeah, that word of mouth at the beginning when you don't really need to be marketing. So.
Exactly. It was just growing so much, and we were like, wow, okay, this is all happening. And at a certain point, we were like, oh, okay, we should probably do some marketing. And we started out with a lot of YouTube marketing. And this was towards, I'm not going to say the beginning of YouTube marketing, or the beginning of influencer marketing, but it was when YouTube and YouTube influencers were
actually, it was the beginning where
really getting started.
Were coming out. So effectively, it
true.
always exists in a way, in one form or another. But essentially, it was the first person who we ever sponsored was Guy, because and that's the thing, we didn't start with the idea of marketing. Guy made a video without knowing us. He didn't know who we were, about the 5 best RPG tools to use.
Right.
And one of them was World Anvil. And we approached him and said, hey, Guy, thank you so very much for doing that. That was so amazing for you, kind of thing. Like, would you like to be sponsored by us, kind of thing? Like we have to do it. Let's start with, somebody who already actually talked about us, kind of thing.
Clearly likes World Anvil, yeah.
Yeah. So we first talked to Guy, essentially. And fun enough, when we first met Guy back then, it was not even about, like, marketing. It was about actually helping the community. And for a very long time, actually, our idea was, we are making a little bit more than we need. Let's try to give some of that away to the community to support and grow the community as well. That was before the rise of, like the D&D 5th edition and like that. The D&D 5th edition were almost coming in the heart of people, but they were not there just yet. Like Critical Role was just starting to get known. Back then, kind of thing. So we gave a sponsorship to Guy, kind of thing, and then we just continued. In the beginning, actually, Guy decided to also make videos for us for each of the templates for World Anvil, kind of thing. And then we found people like XP to level 3 that were also just starting essentially their the career and kind of thing. So it was very beginning kind of YouTube, and we grew from there. Like for a very long time, we were just actually finding people that community thought were cool. At some point, we asked guys, hey, who are the guys that you like?
Right,
you like a sponsor kind of thing, and they were just giving us names, and we're trying it out because we were not specialists. I was working in a design agency. I had some idea about advertising, but definitely not a specialist, not even in any way, shape, or form, kind of thing. So we started with that actually with marketing. Then we actually did Google Ads. We just threw some money in Google Ads.
Right.
Yeah.
It was doing something, and then we got Dave, and Dave got the same money. And literally, that was profound. In March 2022, Google Ads shifted from what I was doing to what Dave was doing, and with half the money made 3 times the views. I was like, how the fuck, what kind of witchery is this? And he was like, well, I know what I'm doing, kind of thing, and that's why Dave is still working on that kind of thing, because he's incredible.
How is this? Skills and technique, experience, knowledge. What do you want from me? Brilliant.
So that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And of course, we talk about Anvil. Janet and I, over the years, mostly Janet, to be fair, over the years, created a series of talks that we deliver because we love what we do. And part of creating Worldbuilding and building a tool for world builders means going very deep down and dirty to how world building is happening, what works, what doesn't, because apart from the experience of us as professionals in the field, we also have the stats of millions of people, not what they have written, but how they performed, how they worked, which people continue to work, and how are their success stories. And all of that actually made us having enough information to say, you know what, we can tell you how you can actually succeed in world building. We can tell you how you can have an incredible homebrew campaign, because we've seen it happen literally thousands of times, and we know what worked. So we create these talks, and from time to time, Janet and I will go out and deliver those talks to conventions, online, or anything like that.
I have a background in education,
which helps a lot.
Part of my degree was a teaching degree, and it has been really, really useful for taking the knowledge that we've learned, and again, we build a world building platform. What that means is we went and did a ton of research on how different people have approached world building in the past, and how people suggest to approach world building, and what works for different things, because that's also really important. World building for a story is not the same as world building for a novel, and it's not the same as world building for a campaign. So figuring out how to do that world building with an IP that already exists, like the Dark Crystal, world building with a completely new IP, again, it's a completely different space, right? Like, you're doing different things, you need different tools, you approach it in a different way. And I think for me and Dimmy, even with Lost Kingdom, the blog that we mentioned, like, education and helping people and providing people with the resources is our favorite thing that we do. Like, we love World Anvil because World Anvil helps people, and we love the educative side of what we do because it helps people. And that's always been like a major passion of ours, is getting people to do the things, like helping people do the things.
I think that's what pushes us forward, because Rob, I mean, probably you know that because you did as well. It takes a lot out of you. Like putting yourself out there and working this time of ours works a lot. And I think that all of us find some things that at least recharge our batteries. And although it's tiring, for example, delivering talks and talking to people is one of these things that for both myself and Janet, they're an instant boost. Even if you are tired, your brain has so many endorphins running when you're actually happening. I can do another 2 weeks now. I have the energy kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's the old adage that a change is as good as a rest. Like, you mix up the work that you're doing, and you go like, oh, there's a new thing. I'm still doing something. It's still productive, but I'm enjoying it. Like, there's a reason that I'm a full-time professional dungeon master, and in my spare time, I run Dungeons and Dragons games. Like, I've got a home game that as I mentioned, I've just finished it right before this stream, and they're just friends. I'm not charging them or anything. That's not a professional gig. It's just something that I enjoy doing, and people that I enjoy hanging out with. So you can find the things that you enjoy about it and stick with that, I guess. And it helps to get you through and recharge the batteries for those elements of the life that you don't enjoy. You're like, I don't. This is not something that I'm passionate about, but it's something that's important to do because that's how the business works or whatever.
We talked a lot about. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say we talked a lot about what you don't enjoy. And a lot of what's fallen on my lap is that kind of stuff. It's the boring stuff. It's the but you have to get your taxes in. And, but you have to organize payroll and sort out all these invoices. Like the super boring, unglamorous side. The find the receipts side of running a business. That's what I do. That's my job as well. So you have to space it out. You have to be like, okay, I get to write this amazing blog about how to write one shot and provide all of these materials, and then I will do the receipts.
Yeah, and I'll also do this, I guess, because I have to. I'll do my invoicing.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
Like there's no job is without boring stuff.
Yeah.
But you have to find a way to get yourself through it.
Yeah,
I'm very averse to boring tasks.
I've always hated.
Very hard to get.
I've always hated the sort of saying of like, oh, if you find a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I'm like, have you tried it?
Yeah.
If you find a job you love, you'll never turn off because you'll be working all days of your life.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to delineate anymore.
And your husband will have to drag you away from your computer at 10 p.m. because you are still working.
Because you're still working it. Yeah, the number, I've had to set time, evenings of because I'm a real night owl and Lizzie's quite a morning person. And so, there's times where I have to be okay, Monday evenings, for example, I'll be Monday evenings, I'm not allowed to work past 8 o'clock or whatever. I'll have dinner and we'll go to bed together. Because otherwise she's like, you never come to bed with me anymore because you're up until 2 a.m. working on something, doing your editing or whatever it is. Yeah, so you gotta kind of you gotta set those boundaries for yourself, especially when you're doing a job where you're working from home as well, because there's no work home life delineation. You're like, oh, I'm still working, and it's 9 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
Just before we start getting into the wrap up stuff about the future of World Anvil and things, I just want to open it to the chat. I know that especially if you guys have remembered my old short rests and things, you'd be used to the fact that I completely ignore you for these streams, but I am reading them. I'm reading the people that are in the comment and things. If you want to be involved in this, I usually end the short rest with a questions from the chat section, so you can start entering those. What I will do is I will turn back on my my viewer rewards channel point emote thing. What are they called? Custom rewards D&D questions. So I will enable those. If they are
You're
not
on
already
slow
enabled.
mode, by the way, in the chat.
They are on slow mode. That's usually, I think that's just my default. So I think the D&D questions should be turned on. Temporarily unavailable. Let me double check that. Edit it. Turn those on again.
Slow mode is
you
normal.
paused.
Rob is permanently on slow mode when he streams.
Yep,
that's because he's a lich, Batmerp. It's because he's a lich. It's okay. When you're as old as Rob, you need to be on slow mode. It's cool.
So that I can read all of the chat, and it's too slow. No, it's because I'm usually streaming for 7,000 people, so
legit.
That's what it is. Alright, if I turn off cooldowns and limits and save that, should that have fixed it now so it's no longer paused? No, it says, oh wait, manage and unpause requests, that's what I need to do. Pause redemptions, there we go. Alright, there we go, that should be unpaused now, so for the cost of 50 copper pieces in the chat there you can ask your questions, just use the DM ask a D&D question redemption, because then it goes into my redemptions queue and I don't have to worry about seeing it and remembering it for later. I'll be able to get back and ask these questions as and when they come in.
I think redemptions queue sounds like something a lich would have. This is the queue for the redemptions.
I mean, I'm not going to deny it, but I'm not going to say that that's evidence of me being a lich.
Yeah.
And there's definitely not evidence of me kissing a lich more than once in streamed games in the past. There's definitely not a running joke of I kissed the lich and I liked it. So I don't know how it's happened. I don't know how it's happened more than twice. I don't know it's happened more than twice because I don't tend to play the seductive kind of characters, the bards that try and seduce everything. But it's happened more than twice, more than once, at least twice, maybe even 3 times, that I have kissed a lich in one of Dreaded GM's games.
Yeah, that sounds like Michael.
Anyway, so what I wanted to get on towards the end here is the future of World Anvil. Where is it going? What are what changes in the works? What can we expect over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 700 years?
We're building things.
Okay, so I can tell you right now for sure, I have no idea how World Anvil is going to be in 5 years from now. No, I don't think anybody can say that for any website on the face of the internet right now. Not to mention
the internet changes like that.
Yeah. But I can tell you that during the next 1 to 2 years from now, World Anvil will be changing radically. And that's to say essentially that we're already actually working on the next change for Anvil. We modernizing everything because Anvil has at last have to go out of beta. Officially, the Anvil is still in beta. And the reason it's still in beta, it is because the core code that we used to work when we first started 2017 is still in place. That's what powers Anvil. And that was never supposed to be a website that will host 2 million users.
Right.
It was supposed to be the website for my wife. There's a very big difference between the two. And that is where we are now. The team is working the last year, and the last 8 months, really. And we'll still be working within the next 6 to 12 months kind of thing to bring Worldbuilding in completely different new version of Worldbuilding that will be adding a lot of features, but also most importantly, having learned from our, not mistakes, but having learned from the things that people asked for and having learned from the things that people needed, we are streamlining, minimizing, cleaning up, organizing, and making things faster and easier for the things that you need to do the most.
Mm-hmm.
So
because we were in a process, so Janet, just to explain, we're in the process of actually adding features continuously. So many features. People are asking things and we're just like throwing them at the wall. At this point, the question is what's stuck.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. We're removing all of the other things, or at least hiding all of the other things, and keeping there in front of there the things that from the 100 things, the 5 things that people use every day and they need to use every day to make it easy, clean, and simple for everyone to use.
Yeah. So Anvil is 5.5 years old. Yeah. One of the benefits of having such an amazing and vibrant community, and as we have done, staying really in touch with that community, is that we basically spent 5.5 years figuring out what people need from a world-building software.
Yeah, right.
Because we've been talking to them constantly. We do a massive survey every year. The last one we did had 1,650 responses, which for an online survey is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And I have personally read multiple times every single response, as has everybody in my team. So we pay a really, really close attention to feature requests, to survey responses, to the community in general for what they're asking. We go live twice a week and people can ask questions and suggest stuff. We've really been paying attention for 5.5 years. What that means is we now finally know what people need from a world-building software, because Anvil was the first of its kind. There wasn't anything before Anvil, which meant it wasn't like we could look at what somebody else had done and just go like, oh, they have done this. That's interesting. I like this thing, and this thing not so much. So I will build mine like this. Didn't exist. There was nothing. So we literally had to invent stuff from the ground up to try and help people. And now we're doing version 1 of that.
How about nowadays when there are like a dozen other similar things that do world building stuff? Do you get inspiration? Do you guys have connections with people that work for these other ones as well and like work together talking things? Or?
It's interesting because we often get emails. I mentioned before that we get a lot of replies to our guild emails, and I respond to all of those personally. We will often get emails from people who said, oh, I tried this software or that software, but it didn't give me what I wanted, so now I'm using Anvil.
Right.
Like, it didn't have the features that I needed, but Anvil does. So we get that a lot, where people have tried the other softwares and they've just gone, this isn't really built for world building.
Right.
It's fine, it's okay. It's like fine for a little bit, but it's not really built for building a robust world. So it's, again, like, because we were the first, we're actually, I don't want to say this, I don't mean this with any hubris, we've been doing this longer, and because of Dimmy and Mai's unique backgrounds, we really know what we're doing. Like, we've really paid a lot of attention. We've really built the tools that people have asked for, which means that it's quite hard to learn from other people because they're just not where we are. Like, we're the most advanced software now.
Right.
Yeah, also I think that even the things that we cannot think of, because we are so open with our community and we ask them so much what they need. Like, we don't need to look out for inspiration. We have 50 things that we created, which is already 20 things more than anybody else. We have another 100 things that we're already thinking of building and we don't have the time to do. Another 200 that is from the community. Why would we look outside? We can hardly look outside the window because there are so many things in front of us we're looking right now, kind of thing, let alone looking outside. Honestly, look, I think that for us, innovation is more important than copying. And we have a good basis to build on, and we don't need to look outside because we have such passion on what we're doing and so much desire to do things. Literally, the only thing that we're missing is people to implement them and time. That's all. Like, that's what we're missing. Not ideas. Ideas we have plenty, and they are solid.
That's the thing. That's the thing I find as well. A bunch of people often like reach out and be like, "Oh, it'd be a great thing for you to do this series on your channel. Or you should do a shot. You should do YouTube shots or TikToks about this or that. Or you should do like a how to play D&D. Or you should do this." And I'm like, "Yep, I should do all of those things." And I've had all those things on my to-do list for 5 years, and I just don't ever get around to doing them. Do you find that people use World Anvil mostly for TTRPG world buildings, like specifically D&D, or do they use it for like writing novels and things, or is it like a huge mix of everything?
It's a huge mix of everything. The other day I found an I always get this wrong. ASMR? AMSR?
ASMR.
ASMR. I found an ASMR world on World Anvil. So that was super interesting.
World? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, they're building a whole world behind their ASMR stuff. That's what it's supporting. We have comics. We have a world that is just fish. Pretty cool. It's like a whole world of fish. It's amazing. We have graphic
like
novels.
700 species of fish.
Yeah, they were like, I'm gonna do fish. This is a world of fish, and it is so beautiful. The art is amazing. The way they've used the software is amazing. It's a world of fish. Just because they like world building and they like fish. Do you know what? More power to you. That's what you like. You do that.
And do you find that everybody, regardless of how the diversity of the sorts of worlds people are building, they need the same stuff? Like, you find that world building is world building, whether you're doing it for TTRPGs or whatever?
Yes and no. So every world is unique, which means every world needs different tools.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll use myself as an example because I am patient zero of World Anvil. Right? It's built for me.
Yeah.
I have novel writing worlds. I have GMing worlds. I have worlds that were used to develop professional products and worlds that are just for home games. All of those worlds are different. I have sci-fi worlds, I have fantasy worlds. So some of my worlds need a timeline and some don't. Right. Some of my worlds need a map and some don't. Some of them need extensive features, like I have to create content trees, which are like these interactive drop-downs to keep track of my magic system. And some of them need whiteboards, so like a mind mapping situation to help me track what's going on. And some of them don't. Some of them are just articles. It's all about what you're trying to achieve. And, you know, it's not about, is it a sci-fi world or a fantasy world, or is it a GMing world or a novel writing world? Right. It's about your particular process and the kind of story you're trying to tell. That determines which kinds of features you need. So I use the novel writing software in some worlds and not in others. I use timelines in some worlds and not in others. Because if my story is only a day long, I don't need a timeline. But if my RPG campaign is like reliant on history that happened in the far past, all of a sudden I need a timeline because that's super important for the kind of story I'm trying to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the best way to describe World Anvil in most cases is actually like your dad's toolbox. It has all the tools you need to do a variety of work around the house. But when you need to nail something on the wall, you won't need more than a nail and a hammer.
Yeah.
And other times, the sink is broken, so you're going to get all other tools kind of thing that you'll never use, and definitely not a hammer kind of thing. So this is what World Anvil is about, and that's why it needs so much like streamlining, because there are so many tools, and people sometimes come into the World Anvil and say, oh my God, I will never be able to use all of them. I was like, why would you have to?
You don't need to. It's not designed to use every single tool.
I'm going to use all of them today.
I tell you, one of the problems that I did find with World Anvil early on is exactly that of going, oh, a prompt, I'll start a new article of a character, and this is an NPC baker that they might meet this next session, so his name is this and his blah-de-blah. And then the prompting section of like, you're making a character article? What deity do they worship? When were they born? Where were they born? Who were they related to? And I was going, oh yeah, I'll add this and I'll add this, and what colour are their eyes, and how tall are they? And 7 hours later I'm like, okay, I've fleshed out that baker. And that's all of my preparation time.
And that's why, to give you an example, version of World Anvil, I can talk about that very quickly. Version of World Anvil, the character template will have still all the prompts. But when you are first opening it up, it will only prompt you with the 10 more commonly used and important ones And the rest one will be optional. You say, I would like to add that as well, but this becomes an option, not like a massive issue you have to fill.
Yeah.
You say, these are the 10 things, like, color of eyes, like ethnicity, species, kind of thing. Like, let's say, this example right now. Yeah. And that's pretty much it for the basic character. If you want more, you can choose, but they won't be in front of you. We're kind of like tightening it down, kind of thing, to make it simpler and cleaner for people to use, kind of thing.
And what sort of, I know coders in particular hate to be narrowed down to a thing, because it's like, it'll be next week, it'll be a month from now. Can you give us a rough ballpark of when people can expect this new version? Are we talking like the next 6 months, a year, or 3 years?
There will be tests for the new version hidden behind essentially not walls, but essentially for the alchemy. So our testers probably within the next 6 months. And excellent. 6 months from that, you probably start seeing an optional rolling out, like essentially the two will go in tandem essentially. And then at some point, as we refine, I'm guessing, as I said, within the 2 years period from now, probably a year and a half from now, the new people coming, they will never see the old version.
Right.
Cool. Even if some others from the previous one, they are still on the old one, the new ones will not be able to see the old version, kind of thing.
I think it's also important to mention that it's not all going to roll out all at once. We are going to be upgrading some things in the meantime, which will look like the new version of.
Right.
So we're doing the complete rework, which is going to be like everything that is good about World Anvil, but faster and more responsive and easier to use. And in the meantime, you'll see some of the modules upgraded as we start planning out. Okay, so in the new version, it's going to work like this, but we're going to rebuild this in the old version and then move it over, essentially.
Because
so you will see upgrades.
As well.
Exactly.
We want to actually give to everybody the opportunity to find out what they think, and then actually that means we can take these learnings from the ideas we had and put them into the new version essentially directly after we test them with people.
Wonderful.
That's what we always do. We share the new stuff with the community and we say, hey guys, we built this new thing based on what you said. Thoughts? And then that's how we do it, right? Because at the end of the day, we're building a software for the people using the software.
Yeah. Wonderful. It sounds like you guys are super onto it, and I would have expected no less.
We do our best.
Before we wrap up, then I'll jump over to the community questions that have been coming in from the chat, and we'll start going through some of these. Tillers is the first to ask a question and says, "When is Project Hercules coming?" Obviously, some sort of an in-joke there. What is Project Hercules?
So, Tillers, as we mentioned, Tillers is the amazing hero that has created many of the sheets on World Anvil, the character sheets, the stat block sheets. But they're also a member of the Inner Sanctum, which means they get privileged knowledge about stuff, and they are very eager for the campaign management update that is coming. So we have a character manager and a campaign manager, and we're going to be upgrading both of those.
And that's nicknamed Project Hercules.
The answer here for that is that because we're currently playing a campaign, and my players are playing with the software, Katerina, one of our principal actually developers right now, already has tasks being formed while we're playing the game. You know what, Katerina, I cannot see the equipment of my players. Please put it in the task list during the session. Put in the task list so we can actually address that on Monday. So you will actually start seeing upgrades on Hercules because we need them for the games.
Yeah, necessity is the mother of all invention, right? Necessity is the mother of all moving things forward and actually getting things off your to-do list. Yeah. Centauri asks, what's been the biggest lesson learned that you'd wished you'd known sooner?
Oh, that's a good question.
Probably different for the both of us.
Something you wish you'd known sooner in the process that would have made the job a lot easier early on, I guess. Stumped, Centauri. Stumped. Good question.
Actually, there are so many things that you've learned, but finding out which one the one that I wish I knew better, faster.
I think for me, we didn't have to do it by ourselves for so long.
Right.
We could have brought people onto the team earlier.
You wish you'd realized earlier, hey, other people are competent as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even that. It was literally like we were so busy.
Yeah.
We felt like we didn't even have time to hire.
That's the problem, isn't it? It's a catch-22 where constantly Fancy's telling me like, hey, we need to do this and we need to get somebody on board to help with this thing, and I'm like, oh, I don't have time to think about that right now. It's like, you got to do the thing, you got to make the time for the thing that's going to help with the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, that's why I said before that November 2021 was one of the hardest months we've ever had, because we decided to do it. And the other thing we've learned, of course, is that getting somebody into the team does not mean they will start actually, producing or helping. It took several months for the team to actually be able to function in the way that it functions right now. So getting people earlier would have been a thing that we should have done faster, for sure.
Yeah.
Both in development and everything else. Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think that would have been helpful.
So if you're starting your endeavor, get people to work with you faster. It will be so beneficial in the long run. I cannot
Don't try and be a hero and think you could do it all yourself, because you can, but you'll burn out. Because that's what happened to me and Dimmy. It was brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, burnout sucks. Batmurp asks, have you watched any of the old D&D movies? And if so, what are your opinions on them?
How was it? Just like you, thieves, always taking things that don't belong to you, right? Like, what was that, like Damodar or something like that?
Yeah, Damodar, first movie.
First of all, amazing makeup. Like, the dude
blue
was
lips.
Fucking luxurious.
So at the moment, every other Saturday, last night was one of them. I am on Dreaded GM, mutual friend of ours, Dreaded GM. I'm on their channel doing movie nights, and we have been in preparation for Honor Amongst Thieves. We started watching the 2001, the 2005 one, the 2012 one, and then next week or the week after, we're going to be doing the accompanying one shot that was released alongside the first movie in 2000. They put out an accompanying one shot to try and get people into D&D, and so we So we've been watching them and giving them ratings. We've been rating each of the movies on giving them stats, essentially saying the strength of the movie is the practical effects, and the dexterity of the movie is the choreography and stunt work. The charisma is the acting and all this stuff. And it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, man, I had never seen the movies before then. And that line in particular, Dimitri, that's the one that we were like, we're going to put that on merch. I think they might have even got it already over on Dreaded GM's channel. They've got like some blue lips and the quote, "You thieves, always taking things that don't belong to you." Because at the time we were like, who wrote that? How did that line get through so many different eyes before making it to the screen and the editing and everything, and then be like, this is fine.
This is fine. It's terrible writing. Oh man. So I've never seen them. I've never seen them at all. I didn't watch a lot of movies before I met Dimmy. I spent a lot of my life under a hole, like in a hole under a rock. So yeah. We
found that the first one is good in a bad way, like one of those movies that's like good to watch because it's so bad. The second one was just bad for bad. Like it wasn't even good enough to rip on. It was like like I've always thought about movies as kind of like a V, where it's like watchable is on this axis and like good is on this axis. So like Shawshank Redemption is at the top of the V on this side, and it's really good and therefore watchable. And then it goes down in watchability as it goes down in goodness. And then if you can continue on past bad, then you go back up in watchability to the point of like the Transformers movies, and like eventually you get to like.
So it's like sublime,
you get to, like,
ridiculous, and then a dip in the middle.
Yeah, and the second D&D movie was like down in the middle somewhere, where it's like it's bad, but it's bad in a not watchable way. The first and the third movie, I'd say, are up in this corner where it's like it's so bad it's watchable again. That was Batmurp. Wraith asks, is there anything you would change in developing World Anvil now that you've been there? Done that. Anything that you would be like a do-over?
Thousands of things. Like that's why I'm doing it, because every time I see it, I'm like, you're my child, but you're fucking ugly.
I hate this. I hate this element.
Exactly. Everything. No, that's not true. There are things that I would for World Anvil, but yes, there are many things I would do differently. One of the things I would do differently for World Anvil is definitely the fact that I tried to give too much attention to people who are pros and not so much attention to the person who just wants to run a game and they don't know about Worldbuilding, they've not been here for 5-6 years kind of thing, and they come in there, they feel intimidated, and that actually, I think that needs to change. I think that we need to be open and we need to be actually accommodating to everyone, regardless if they're here for 5 years and they want to do the crazy things, and they still should be able to do them. But also the person who just comes in and they just want to be like, let's start with just writing an article about the location of the player starting kind of thing, and let's make it nice. So that's definitely something that will be changing, and it is changing. It takes literally the brain power not of one person right now, but 2 designers and 3 developers just focusing on answering this question. How can we make it simpler, cleaner, easier for the new user to actually come in and work with
because the user interface is so important. Like you gotta have that usability when people are new to it and they're like, there's so many tools around, there's so many buttons and things, and you're like, I don't know where to go. How do I just make an article?
For me, when we started World Anvil, we started with the idea that it's an open space that people can do what they want to do.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, people can go in, they can use the tools that they need to make the things that they want. And what we found was there's a large subset of users who absolutely love that. I did an interview with somebody who we were supposed to be talking about novel writing, but it just turned into her talking about how much she loved World Anvil, which was really great. Really nice to hear. And one of the things that she said, which really stuck with me, is, it doesn't force you on a path. You can create however you want to create. But what we found is that a lot of people get to the beginning and they're like, options.
I need a path.
So many options.
Yeah.
And I think
that's in the middle of a plane and you're like, I can go anywhere.
It's the same I find in dungeon mastering. Like, I was so you hear about like railroading as if it's such a dirty word in Dungeons and Dragons. When you're first starting out, all of these Reddit threads about like, railroading versus sandbox, and they're talking about it as if it's like good and evil. And then when you've been doing it for so long with so many different people, you're like, some people prefer playing with a railroad game because you stick them in a sandbox and they go, where's the call to action? I don't know what to do. I'm gonna go to the tavern and I'm gonna just like muck around in the tavern.
What
drinking.
happens if I lick this tree?
Yeah, and then they get to the end of the session and they're like, well, that was shit. Nothing happened. It's like, you didn't make anything happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should start this conversation or not, but we're currently playing actually Kingmaker, and for the first time, I create sandbox. I create all my adventures. I do not play in other worlds most of the time. Even if I play in a world, I will create my own little corner in the world kind of thing and build it up. And we're playing the game. And for the first time, I came to Janet yesterday and telling her, look, I have a problem with my players because they're trying to go towards the goal so quickly, they're going to die going there because I read the adventure. And the adventure said, you need to tell them this and this and this and this. And my players were like, why? We're going that way. It's like, it's not supposed to work like that.
You're meant to have you're meant to go towards it like this so that you can level up and grind on the way there. Why would we do that when we've got the goal in mind? It's like...
And that's the thing. Like, we're trying not to meta play, which means we're like, oh, the guy is over there. Well, that's where we're going.
Yeah.
We don't think, oh yes, we need to advance 3 levels, so let's go fight that wolf over there, and then I'll come back with a glowing sword.
The most beautiful analogy for this is Brennan Lee Mulligan said it in an interview once. He says, water will always find its way downhill, it'll always follow the path of least resistance. And as a character, your character should always be like going towards the goal. You've got the goal in mind, why would you not go towards the goal? He says, my job as a dungeon master is to put the obstacles in mind that force you to meander. He says rivers don't ever go down a hill in a straight line because they are forced to meander around paths of least resistance. He says the character should always do this, but the player should be aware of like, hey, an interesting story is one that you get to the end and look back and see that it wound its way down the mountain rather than going straight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting point, Rob. My players are literally doing that right now. They found the river and they know that the place that I was supposed to go is at the bottom of the river, just falling down the river. I was like, oh crap. Okay, I'll fix it. It's okay. Next session it's tomorrow. But oh my god, I was so terrified yesterday. I was like, no, you're not ready for this.
Yeah, I have to do that sometimes, like get out into the wilderness and actually do like some hiking and treks and stuff so that I can better describe obstacles on the way when somebody goes, a river, I'll follow the river, and I have to call on my own knowledge of like how real rivers work and go, sometimes you can't follow the river, sometimes you get to a point where there's a cliff or there's a fallen thing and you can't get around it, or the terrain just is not conducive to you following along the side of the river, so you're gonna lose the river for a little while at least. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. In writing, we call these try-fail cycles, and they're really, really important. Like, you try to get towards the thing, you try to do the thing, but then something happens, there is conflict on the way.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, try-fail cycles are really important for GMing. It's you need to introduce them, because otherwise the players are just like, I will just do the thing.
I'll just do the thing then.
And as you said, there's no story.
Where's the conflict?
Exactly. Exactly. Like, the story, a man was told to go do a thing, so he did it, is not a story at all.
All right, so Ziza, I think that's how you pronounce that. Ziza Zazele says, what were your thoughts on the OGL debacle?
Oh, man.
My thoughts on the OGL, as it was happening, people were asking me my thoughts on it, and I was like, I don't have thoughts on it because it's not going to happen. Like, it's not I'm telling you right now, it's not happening. And they're like, oh, but isn't it scary? I'm like, it's not scary because it's not going to happen. Why are you so sure? I'm like, look at the amount of backlash within the first week of it being released. Like, it's absolute suicide for them to go ahead with this. And then sure enough, they rolled it all back.
So, to be fair with you, I actually saw it coming from literally 1,000 miles away. The moment they came out and said, we're announcing one D&D, I turned to Janet and I said, one ring to rule them all, one will I knew exactly what's going to happen. I said, okay, right. They are going to be starting to try to bring things in, right? Essentially, like, it was so obvious. Like, if you have any understanding of business, you know they were trying to actually harvest everything they seeded, kind of thing at this point. I was like, they will try to do it, and the moment the debacle started, I was like, and they will definitely fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can, and like you, I saw it coming because as soon as I started trying to get these cards that I used to use for all my players, these creature cards and the cards that like cleric cards and stuff, spell cards, and somebody was playing a cleric in one of my games. And so I wanted to try and get them. I went around a bunch of shops and they weren't anywhere, all these gaming shops. And eventually one of the guys at one of these shops told me why. Instead of just saying, no, we don't have them, one of the guys eventually was like, oh, no, we don't get them because they're not making them anymore. The Wizards of the Coast have retracted their license for like third-party publishing content and things. They're not allowing these third-party publishers to make their content. And I was like, that indicates to me that Wizards is about to start making them and they're going to try and monopolize anything that's D&D related. And then after that, they went and they acquired D&D Beyond. And I was like, okay, D&D Beyond's now an official Wizards of the Coast thing. And it's like, the writing was on the wall for a long time before that of them going like, everything's going to be official or nothing. Official or nothing. Money, money, money's.
Exactly. If you were paying attention to what they were doing the last 2-3 years, you'd see that it was definitely going that way. It's not odd. And honestly, I'm not surprised. And I was not surprised because it was obvious it's going to happen because they gave so much freedom out there and they wanted a piece of the pie, but they've done it in the worst possible way. I honestly was surprised with it. What surprised me was the way they replied to the whole thing. I was like, they are such a big brand. Don't they have, like, for example, like public relations people behind it? Are they just like monkeys behind the keyboard, just like typing
blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it did feel like.
And it would have a better answer.
I saw a bunch of like content creators making TikToks and memes and Insta reels about the whole debacle about like Wizards of the Coast right now going, what are you making us say? And then Hasbro over here being like, say this. And they're like, what are you doing? And Hasbro's like, but money. It's just like, the huge disconnect that seemed to be there between like the bigwigs right up the chain who are just looking at numbers on a spreadsheet and going, this isn't making a big enough number. And then all of the other people going, this is not the way to do it.
It's actually, so I don't want to drop too much privileged information, but it's kind of the opposite.
Oh, really?
Dungeons and Dragons is making a lot of money, and they're seeing it as something that they really want to start cashing in on.
Right.
Again, I can't say too much there, but Dungeons and Dragons is surprisingly successful.
But it's not the other way around in terms of like who was driving it. It was still Hasbro that was going.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's what I thought you meant. I was like, wait, that's
no. I have friends over on the Wizards of the Coast, like the creative staff.
Yeah.
They have no idea about all of this. This is not
why it all
came.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've heard that
like,
numerous times. Everybody, all of the content creators, like D&D shots and stuff,
games.
they're all saying, everybody at Wizards of the Coast is like, the creative team are like, we fucking love this game and we love the community and we love everything. Yeah, exactly. And everybody else is like, but bring us the monies, my monies. And they're like, but please, just don't ruin this thing.
But we just want to make beautiful things.
Don't ruin this thing.
We just want to get people excited. Like, that is what they want, for better or worse. And you can have whatever opinion you like of the actual Dungeons & Dragons products. I'm not going to tell you what to think, but I can tell you that the people on the team just want to make things that are nice and get people excited about the game, because they are all passionate gamers. That's why they got into this industry that doesn't pay any damn money. Like, nobody gets into RPGs to make money. We get into RPGs because we love them so much we can't do anything else, right?
Am I not going to make... Oh, god damn it.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to break it to you.
Should have been a mathematician.
If you're trying to become a millionaire, you are in the wrong industry.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I don't know. I saw Critical Role's Twitch leak. Everybody can do that, right?
Say, unless you're Critical Role, you know, we're all just mugging along. We just love RPGs. You know?
All right,
that's who we all are.
We got a speed round it because we're getting to the end, and you guys, we're all very busy people, so I don't want to take you for longer than I asked you for. So speed round. How many lines of code does World Anvil have?
Oh wow, hundreds of thousands at this point.
Hundreds of thousands, somewhere in the hundreds of thousands range. Yeah. Does the spell Animal Friendship work on angry wild-shaped druids or polymorphed enemies? It would work on polymorphed enemies because you're literally changing them into a beast. The entire stat block is changed into that beast. The wild shape keeps the stat that they're in, so I don't think they count as beast when they're a wild-shaped druid. So no, and then yes. That's about VLDL, so I'm going to ask that about right now. That's another VLDL question. Have you watched Dark on Netflix? I haven't yet, but it's been recommended to me a few times.
Dark,
yeah, D-A-R-K, Dark. Apparently it's very good. I don't know anything about it other than the fact that a lot of people have told me it's very good. It's like a mystery something.
We're currently watching Andor, and we actually do like it a lot. It's very interesting.
What is you've been watching? What, sorry?
Andor.
Oh, Andor. I haven't seen it. I saw like most of the Mandalorian and none of Boba Fett, and they're just like, it's one of those things where they're just churning it out way quicker than I can possibly care.
It's a very interesting show. Like from all these like side shows they create, I think Andor so far is the one that captivated me more than the rest.
Right, interesting. Yeah. That's good to know. I might give it a go sometime.
Very cyberpunky.
Batmerp asks, "What's your favorite TV movie or TV show or movie
of all time?"
Of all time.
Okay, movies. I would say 3: Gladiator.
Gattaca. Wait, I can do this. Gladiator, Gattaca, and Contact.
Yes.
I haven't seen Contact yet. It's been on my list forever. Gladiator is a fantastic movie. One of my favorites of all time is Hot Fuzz because I just can rewatch it so many times. It's such a funny film.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I can understand why.
Yeah. TV shows for me would probably be Breaking Bad is up there. I love that start to finish. I loved it. Game of Thrones up to season 6-ish, and then just forget that the last 2 seasons happened.
Yeah.
Firefly.
Firefly, of course. Yeah, fantastic show.
Yeah.
Stargate. Yeah.
Do Janet and Dimitri have a D&D campaign on YouTube or Twitch, like one that you run that people can watch?
No,
we do not have something that we're running right now. We used to run actually alternative, like fantasy, science fiction campaign. But now we're just playing every Monday with quite a big amount of our members of our team around the table because we need
we have an in-person team game. I've played a lot in other people's games, but we haven't done our own game yet.
For a long time.
Maybe we should.
Because you have more ample free time.
All of our free time that we have.
Yeah. Everybody's got lots of free time. And what is your favourite class and race combination to play when you're playing as a Dungeons and Dragons player rather than the DM?
The weirdest one I can get my DM to accept.
I was gonna say Janet will just be whatever's out there, like a Harangun fight. Swashbuckler, whatever it was. Yeah.
I'm currently playing a catfolk gunslinger swashbuckler, and we did a homebrew swap. This Pathfinder 1 did a homebrew swap so that the gunslinger uses charisma instead of wisdom as their key stat, so that I can have a charisma-based gunslinger. And she's just the best munchkin in the world. I love her. She's amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who was it? Somebody in the chat pointed out. Centauri says Janet on Dag's Christmas special still makes me giggle. That was such a fun little one shot that we ran.
That was so much fun.
If you want to see Janet and I play together, you can see on Dead Aussie Gamers channel. I think he ended up putting them on YouTube. You can find us doing a pirate campaign for like 12 episodes. That was a hell of a lot of fun, and we actually managed to like have some proper arc and story to the characters. You can also find us just mucking about more silly wise on Dead as a Gamer's channel, where we did a Christmas special. We were meant to be doing something else. Somebody couldn't make it last minute, so instead he just improvised a Christmas one shot where we were all minis on a D&D table, and we were sick of being manhandled every day, and so we wanted to get across the table, down onto the floor, and across to the Christmas tree. Because if we could hide as Christmas tree ornaments, then we'd only get played with once a year, and that was better for us. Yeah. And then in that game, we all murdered ourselves. Our life size, we were minis, and then we were also playing ourselves as real people, playing with the minis, and then we all somehow killed ourselves. A Christmas ornament pulled out a handgun at the end. There was like a real full size. It was just so much nonsense. God, it was a lot of fun.
I think I shot you in the face. I'm
you
so
shot
sorry
me in the
about
face,
that.
I think, and then I tipped the Christmas tree onto Dag or something. I broke his neck or something.
And we speared him with the star. Yes.
With the spar. Yeah, good. Man,
I mean, spoiler alert.
Crazy.
Right.
crazy one shot, but it was a lot of fun. So that's one place people can find us. It's a perfect segue. Where else can people find us? Where can people find you and keep up with what you're doing and all your socials and things like that?
We are World Anvil. We try and keep it simple. We are at World Anvil pretty much everywhere. You can find us on Twitch, where we do like live streams, and we do live streams with experts. We do hangout streams. We do write-along streams, world building along streams. We're going to start webinars soon as well. So if you want to learn about World Anvil, learn about world building, if you want to learn about just come and have a great time and do some writing and feel productive and hang out with great people, you can come find us on Twitch. We're also on YouTube. We've got videos. We're over on social spaces, and we have a Discord. It's really nice. There's like 36,000 people, but it still feels like a little bit.
Go there, worldamvil.com/Discord. That's pretty much it. It's easy. worldamvil.com, Discord.
Wonderful.
Our community are amazing.
There you go.
That's what I would say.
Go follow them, all the places, World Anvil. If you are here from World Anvil's community and you don't know who I am, I'm Robert Hartley, GM. As you can see below me here, I am a full-time Dungeon Master and TTRPG player. I am most well known for DMing a comedy group in New Zealand called Viva la Dirt League. We have a YouTube channel with approaching 300,000 subscribers on there now, so super excited about that. I'm also a lich. Yes, I am also a lich. There's no T in lich. Not that I would know that from
there is when I spell it.
Not from, what else do I do? I am a writer for a web series called D&D Logic. I do an interactive game of Dungeons and Dragons here on my Twitch channel every Sunday called Twitch Tales, where there's no players other than the chat. The chat is hive mind controlling the actions of the main character. It's a very fun series. It's been running for about 80 episodes now, and they're currently in the Feywild. This morning. Jesus, I've done a lot today. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was today. This morning episode had them in a dinner party between two archfey, and it was very tense. It was a very exciting episode. So make sure to stick around if you like Dungeons and Dragons. You like content related to D&D. Find me on all of the different platforms at Robert Hartley GM. But for now, we will leave it there. I don't want to take up more of all of these lovely people's times. So let's find somebody to raid, and we'll send you off. Thank you very much for joining me. This has been an absolute blast. And I hope that we managed to warm up around the fire enough to set off through the tundra towards the next place that we're going.
Get on the way down, yeah. Let's go straight for the enemy now.
Yeah, straight for the enemy.
Straight for the enemy. We got it. I've rolled my hit dice. I've got some hit points back. I've got my second wind and short rest. What's it called? Action surge and all the rest of it. Wonderful. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you to the mods in the chat for doing all the work that you do. Love you guys. Really appreciate everything you do for me. And I'll see everybody in the next stream. Bye, everyone. Oh, damn. Is it over already?
Well, my Patreons get an exclusive first look at all my new videos, so maybe the next one's live over there already. Go check it out.